about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So before we begin, I just need to vent. This is exactly what bothers me. So many of you heard that in Southern Nevada, there was a truck that flipped or that crashed and had lithium-ion batteries. It caused a fire. It caused a huge fire. And then hours, if not days, of traffic jams as parts of the I-15 had to be closed. One thoroughfare was allowed to reopen in a few hours. The other closed until, I think, the next day or the day after. And so witnesses are telling me that nobody is talking about what happened to the stranded drivers. The drivers stuck in traffic for hours. And we're being told that those who had electric vehicles, many of them ran out of their charge. And then trying to tow stranded electric vehicles in the dead of the sun and the heat of the summer was not very easy. And I'm not anti-electric vehicles. I think electric vehicles are cool, but I'm anti-lack of transparency. Why isn't anybody covering that? Why isn't anybody warning drivers that this could be a possibility? Now, I've been under the impression, I think a lot of us are, that if you have a nice, full, brand new, large capacity battery, that if you have to idle stuck on the highway for a few hours, you should be fine. You should be able to idle with the air conditioning. But we are being told that people went through their battery quicker than they thought. Or if they didn't have, it topped off, it wasn't enough to last the hours upon hours of you being trapped. Now, being that it's the desert, people ask, well, why don't you just drive in the desert? And then it's not very easy. It's also gated. There's fences and not to mention traffic violations. So when you're stuck on a highway, for the most part, you're stuck. And when it's scorching temperatures and you have family and kids and dogs or yourself, you need to have the air conditioning on. And so people were talking about, well, we thought about maybe shutting off the car and then maybe restarting it. And this shouldn't be an issue. Now, because we don't have chargers, I forget which politician said they wanted chargers all along all the highways. Ambitious, might assist in this type of issue when people could run out of charge on the road, but not practical. Not to mention what it could do for the environment. And so we're hearing that trying to tow, because not only was there the issue with the fire and the hazardous material that could be emitting from a, I guess, what was it, a 75,000 pound truck with batteries. And not only is that, was that an issue clogging the roads, but these electric vehicles that didn't have charge, now they can't move. So now once traffic is starting to be able to move, what do you do with these cars? And so the tow trucks trying to get out, but I think it was between Baker and Barstow, not very easy. Now, fortunately, they were close enough to Barstow and Baker where you had some cities nearby, but this isn't back east, where every 10, 15 minutes there's a town. You could go for miles without there being anything. And so we really need to just have a conversation. I understand that people get very sensitive about electric vehicles and they think we're going against the narrative. But from a public health standpoint, we got to be honest. If you are using your EV to go across a desert or a location where it could be very, very cold and snow, always have a plan for if you do get stuck or stranded. Now, if you run out of gas, we could always bring you gas. Tow trucks can bring you gas, but if you run out of battery, do we have portable chargers? I spoke about this early on when they were mandating that we have most cars on the market being sold to be EVs. I go, can you have a charger? You know how a lot of us have like the Mophie or something extra to charge our phone? in case we don't have an outlet nearby? Do we have generators? Do we have something where if your battery goes out, I would have no problem having an electric vehicle and using it on the open highway if I knew that I could at least hook it up to something if I have to, if I'm stranded in the desert. We don't want people stranded in the desert. We don't want people stranded in the snow. And what do we tell you to do? Well, one, prevent your risk of carbon monoxide poisoning, idling, but make sure you stay warm or stay. Look how people died. Was that in Buffalo, where there was such a bad snowstorm and people were stranded in their cars and they ended up freezing to death in their cars? Okay, you have to have a system in place. If you're going to have EVs on the highway running out of battery when there's a traffic jam, then make sure you have plenty of tow truck drivers. Make sure you have plenty of nearby charging stations. Make sure you have an infrastructure, a plan. And alert the public what to do. Is there a lot of education on what to do if you get stranded in an electric vehicle on the desert? No one's talking about it, because when I drive to California, because I'm always driving against the traffic, because when you leave Vegas to go there on a Friday, it's the opposite of Friday traffic coming into Vegas. So I usually have very little traffic until I hit the city in LA. But for those people that are not anticipating that there could be something like a turnover or a truck fire, you're screwed. And so hearing that many people were stuck, they ran out of battery, and now you see online people going, well, should I shut the air conditioning off? Should we open the windows? I mean, the panic people have of their battery could be solved by, one, quit stressing us out about buying an electric vehicle before you have the infrastructure in place. Give people an ability to charge their battery on their own if they can't get to a nearby charging station. Make sure there's plenty of charging stations and educate people on the risk of what your battery might do when you have to idle for hours. But nobody's talking about that part of the story, and it's frustrating me, because from a public health standpoint, we aren't supposed to get political. We're just supposed to protect people's health. The 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, don't go away.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our Fantasy Football Pocket Guide for Beginners found on Amazon, or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians, only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. Big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah X, The Dr. Daliah Show, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. Okay, so one of the most common things I'm getting from you all is one, can you please fix your hair? Thank you. Thank you for that. Number two is you're not getting called back by these jobs that you're applying to. Don't take it personally. So many of you have been applying for jobs and you apply online and it might say easy apply and you click it. You submit your resume and then you get nothing. Or you get a rejection letter months down the line. And it's, sorry, my nose is running. And it's pretty, confidence destroying when that happens to you. And I have spoken about this before because many of you have talked about how you can't get a job anywhere. Isn't there a labor shortage? What's going on? And I've talked about how the system is working against you. And there's this system in play that if you don't understand, you're not going to be able to beat. And so, whereas we used to pavement pound, walking down the sidewalk or on the pavement to find a place to work, I did that when I got a job at Jack in the Box. I was living near campus, so I walked over to the Jack in the Box. I said, "Are you hiring?" They handed me out an application. I filled it out. If the manager was there, "Look, I'll just talk to you now. I love you. That's fine. Let's give you a job." Now you are not competing with somebody else pavement pounding, which gave you an advantage because early bird got the worm. If you got there at 8 a.m. or I guess were pretty assertive and motivated to get the job, you would get the job. But now all people are doing is a click, easy apply, click online. And you are competing with hundreds, if not thousands of applicants. Now, HR and many of these job sites are using software or these applicant tracking systems to make their job easier and for liability. So if a job does not want to be accused of being discriminatory or biased, they are being pitched these software systems so that they could say, "Hey, it's the software that picked you, not me." And if you notice, there's questions that some of them ask you, and those questions are part of the filter that the software is going to use to either exclude you or keep you. The software will also look up your keywords, look at your keywords. If you, let's say, are supposed to include a cover letter, and you're like, "I don't have time to make a cover letter for every job I'm applying to, just here's my resume, it's good." There's a 99.999% chance that you're not going to get that job. Because the software will immediately exclude you because you didn't follow the suggestions. And so you're actually going up against software. You're not going up against a person behind the desk going, "I really love this font," or "I really love the way they opened with this." You're not getting that. What you're getting is a software that's doing the pre-filtering. And then once you make it through there may be a deeper filtering. Now, we spoke about a lot of the reasons why aren't you getting the job? Is it because you're overqualified? Is it because you're underqualified? Is it because your email looks old and outdated? Is it because they could see your age? And so they could limit on your age, although they can't tell the software that because then they could get in trouble. But somebody who does get the filter can say, "Oh, okay, these people were born in the 40s. So no, they've aged out." And which is a shame. So some of the reasons why you're not getting hired is a lot of these are ghost jobs. Many human resources departments want to still keep their budget. And so in order for them to keep their budget, they have to show that they spent money on recruiting. Even if they don't need to fill the job, many of them are still running ads. So they can say, "Look, this is what we spent. So don't cut our budget." A lot of times these jobs or these companies want to hire within. They know exactly who they want. somebody's kid, somebody who's flirting with them, whatever. But they have to show that they are hiring. They have to show that they did an external search. So here you are getting all excited going, oh, wow, I could be VP for this company. They have no plans on hiring externally for that. But they have to show that they did that to show a paper trail. Another thing that sometimes these jobs do is if they feel their current staff are not working up to par, or they're goofing around remote or something, they may be very public about the job search such that the current employees go, ooh, I could get replaced. I mean, there's so many different things that could be going on. So how do you a system that now allows people from all over the world to apply for a job that if you would have pavement pen, you could have gotten? How do you compete with your online? I mean, it's how you look digitally. You might think you look good in person, but they aren't seeing you in person. They're seeing you digitally. Some of the software may like the picture, some might not. So you need to figure out the software. You need to figure out what makes that company tick. And you have to also understand that I think the statistic is 3% of all online jobs, of people who apply, there's a 3% chance of you getting that job. 3%, which means there's a 97% chance you won't. It doesn't mean don't apply. It means you need to figure out the system. Now, the one thing I will not encourage, which is not a smart move, is to answer the demographic questions incorrectly. Now, just so you could get the job. I know a lot of people said, look, I did that so I could just see if the software would look at me because I said I wasn't white. That could get you into a little bit of trouble because you cannot falsify your application. You also don't want to take a job for somebody who is underserved and needs that job, but we understand that a lot of the software now, well, they ask if you're male, female, your gender, if you write no answer or I prefer not to answer, well, that software rejects you. So be honest. But there's other ways to appease the software. And so if, let's say, the job title and the job description has keywords in it, you make sure those keywords are in your resume. Make sure they're also in your cover letter. They want data entry. If they want marketing. If they want public relations, you make sure they're there. Somebody said that there's a way to see if the ATS, the applicant tracking system, will reject your application based on formatting. And so I guess there's a way. Let me see. Somebody had told me, they say, what you could do is go to Microsoft Word, copy and paste the content of your resume into a plain text document, or convert your current resume document into a plain text document, click Save As, change the format to text instead of docx, and if the new version of your text document is missing any important details from your original, or if it looks different or disorganized, it might not be compatible with the job's ATS. Now, this advice that was actually very helpful. That came from Ramsey. I don't know if that's Dave Ramsey, it just says Ramsey. And so you see what they're saying? You might do a beautiful PDF document, and then the applicant tracking system will take it, and it'll look all jumbled. In fact, some of you have seen this, where you submit your resume, and then when you look, it's all jumbled. If that happens, that job is going to reject you, most likely. Or the software is going to reject you, and somebody's never going to get to see you. So you could see if when you do go to the text document, if it looks good. And if it does, then there's a chance that the ATS will accept it. If not, you might have to change your formatting. But it shouldn't be like this. It really shouldn't be like this. And I could tell you how many people say, look, I've applied, I'm getting nothing. And I told you, well, one thing you can do is you could call the company. You could go to their human resources and say, look, I wanted you to see a face with the application. But if that human resources department is all about, no, I just want, just go online. Don't give me anything on paper. Don't, then that's what you're up against. But if it is a company that says, look, we're really looking for somebody and you have a good resume, I think it's still worth a try. I mean, you're getting rejected online anyway. But, there are things you could do. Understand, it's a system that's supposed to help companies sift through thousands of applications, and you can be rejected by software and not a human. 1-877-DOC-Daliah. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hotshot Secret, powered by science.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So those of us who love chocolate, and I'm talking I love chocolate. I just cannot just pass up chocolate. I just love chocolate. I don't care if I'm dieting. I don't care if I need to stay away from sugar. If I see chocolate, I'm going to stick my finger in it or lick the spoon, whatever. But we have had apparently a lot of concern as it pertains to what toxic metals could be lurking in our chocolate. Now, researchers in Washington, D.C. decided to purchase and analyze 72 commercial products over 8 years and look at what was in the chocolate. And they tested them for heavy metals like lead, cadmium, and arsenic. The levels were then compared to the maximum threshold set by California's Proposition 65. Now, California's Proposition 65 regulates how much toxic metals and byproducts can be in our food and drink. They found that the products contained traces of toxic metals, and almost half had up to 20% more than what was the maximum allowed dose of lead. More than a third exceeded allowed levels of cadmium. And as you know, cadmium has been linked to cancer. Kidney damage, lead could also be linked to cancer and poor mental functioning and a variety of things. And so we don't have a list of these 72 chocolates. But from what we're told, they are very popularly sold chocolates. 72 of them. Now, I can only think of 3 brands. The 3 brands I always like to eat, but I don't want to say necessarily that the brand you're thinking of is included in the list. They haven't disclosed it. These are researchers at George Washington University. They say, according to Daily Mail, that the team also noted that a single serving of these chocolates will not necessarily cause issues, but if you consume multiple servings, that could really affect your kidneys, heart disease, cancer. And so there's been other research that has estimated that thousands of cancer cases could be linked to foods we're eating that is laced with lead, cadmium, and arsenic. So for those of you about to eat a candy bar, I know you're kind of looking at it going, what the hell? Now, keep in mind that for them to make these foods, to take the cocoa plant, which is very bitter, and I think they're little round seeds, and turn it into a smooth, crisp, segmented chocolate bar. It takes processing, it takes additives, it takes manufacturing, and some industrialization exposure. And so I'm not shocked by this. But shouldn't there be a way to clean that out or to prevent there from being seepage? They say heavy metals like lead, cadmium, and arsenic could get into food products from soil, air, water, or the manufacturing process, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. So the team purchased 72 chocolate products between 2014 and 2022 from retailers and stores like Whole Foods and distributor websites. Not exactly sure which Whole Foods or which online retailers, but the maximum daily threshold set by California's Proposition 65 were 0.5 micrograms per day. And then for lead, 4.1 micrograms per day for cadmium, and 10 micrograms per day for arsenic. Now, they said there was one caveat to the study. California does have stricter limits on heavy metals than other states, and so there might be EPA guidelines or other states where this might pass. But if your strictest state is California and you want to sell your products in California, you might as well get under that threshold because that's the rate limiting step for all of this. They said all of the products tested positive for traces of toxic metals. 4.3% or 43%? No, 43% exceeded Proposition 65's maximum level of daily exposure. More than 1 in 3 chocolates had levels above this limit. They said chocolates labeled organic had higher levels of lead and cadmium than non-organic counterparts. They totaled 3.2 micrograms on average. So organic, it didn't seem to be safer. And so this frustrates me because I think one of the reasons why food prices are getting more expensive is because of these regulations. Now, I agree that we should have, for public health standards, that food has to go through. I do not want arsenic in our juices being given to babies. I don't want lead in our babies' food. That could be leading to autism, spectrum disorder, or developmental delays. I don't want us consuming something that has carcinogens in it. But the truth of the matter is the more we find out that these companies are doing things half-assed, the more we're going to implement more rules and restrictions. And I understand that Proposition 65 was not very popular among food companies because they had to throw out a lot of their food. They couldn't sell a lot of their food in California, and prices went up. But when you eat something like this once in a blue moon, not a big deal. But there are people where they'll buy their candy bars, and it'll be one of their regular staples. We saw with food stamps, that study looking at food stamps, how a good majority of those food stamp dollars are going to junk food. Now, you have families out there that are buying good food for their kids. They're buying fruit, vegetables, meat, fiber, but a lot of it is going to junk food. So if that's what people are using as their daily staple, I'll always buy a little chocolate or something just to have at the house in case I really need to sink my teeth into some chocolate. But I don't buy the same brand. I don't ever want to just eat the same. I understand Hershey's one of my favorite. I think Hershey's chocolate is fan-flippantastic, but I'm not always going to buy it. And one of the reasons why is it's expensive. And I don't need to eat that much chocolate. In terms of lead, there's really no safe consumption. When you see these guidelines by Proposition 65, it's not that, okay, if you're under the 4.1 micrograms or parts per million, you're good. No, it's in terms of health levels. They understand that stuff could get in, but they don't want to be selling or distributing things in their state that have elements that exceed that. It doesn't mean that those elements are safe. I cannot tell you what is a safe lead or cadmium level. If they are probable human carcinogens, my answer is none of that. Arsenic can cause cancer, lung, bladder, skin cancers. So we do need to limit our exposure. We do need to not let these accumulate. We're getting heavy metals from our vape pens. We're getting metals and plastics from our food containers. A 2022 analysis from Consumer Reports found lead and cadmium in 28 chocolate products last year, including Hershey's and Lindt. Lindt is, I think, the Switzerland chocolate. I prefer Hershey's. Lindt is delicious, but I don't want super creamy. I don't want super milky chocolate. I don't like white chocolate. If I'm going to eat chocolate, I want it to be the real chocolate. Dark chocolate can get kind of bitter. But I like the Hershey's Special Dark, which is nothing like the healthy dark chocolate, but I do like that. It has just enough bitter, but I still prefer milk chocolate. So a spokesperson for the National Confectioners Association told Daily Mail, look, chocolate and cocoa are safe to eat, can be enjoyed as treats, and they have been for centuries. They say food safety and product quality remain our highest priorities, and we remain dedicated to being transparent and socially responsible. So this Frontiers in Nutrition article or journal that this article was published kind of reminds us that we need to understand that stuff could be seeping into our food. And we need to be aware and make sure we're eating things in moderation, especially if companies aren't doing their job. 1-877-Daliah.
Considered by most, optimized curcumin is one of the few bioavailable and highly absorbable curcumin products on the market. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch. Since most chronic diseases have inflammation, our optimized curcumin seems to be a perfect addition to any nutritional program. It makes sense to me that preventing or reducing inflammation is a key component to our overall health. The Mayo Clinic found that curcumin can decrease swelling and inflammation, has antioxidant properties, and research suggests that curcumin can prevent cancer, or at least slow the spread of cancer, and in many instances make chemotherapy more effective. It protects our healthy cells even from radiation. TotalWellness.com, where we help you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Thank you guys for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. We understand there's a lot of choices out there, but for you to pick the Dr. Daliah Show, we are so, so grateful. Call in with your questions at 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI, or you can email us at drdaliah.com. All right. So the Olympics is going on, and I am extremely impressed with what our athletes have done. I'm impressed with all the athletes, but of course, Team USA is my team. And I am ecstatic that Simone Biles overcame what she went through in Tokyo. She had the twisties where she was at risk of suffering some horrific injury if she didn't withdraw from the Tokyo Olympics. She got a lot of online criticism. I supported her as a doctor. She made the right move. But boy, were there haters out there. And she is especially after what she's done this week in Paris, she is the most highly decorated Olympian, has more medals than any other Olympic gymnast. As of yesterday, she had at least 30 medals with 23 gold. Now I think I'm being told she has 38 medals. And of course, the majority of them gold. They just won the gold for the team final, and now they're going to be doing their individuals. And they say she is tied for 7th for the most Olympic medals ever won. And so I think she beat Michael Phelps. I think Michael Phelps has won under 30. She's one of the best of all times. And I know there's been a lot of criticism that, she left the team, last Olympics, and all eyes are on her. There's other Olympians that also want to get credit and get some TV time. But she is the GOAT. I mean, she is probably one of the greatest gymnasts of all time. And so what's fascinating about her story, and I'm a huge Simone Biles fan, is she knew when to call it. People look at her leaving the Tokyo Olympics as, well, she let everybody down. She wasn't a team player. I don't look at it as that. I think that is pretty unselfish to say, look, I could bring the team score down. And the team went on to win a silver, allowing an alternate to come on. I think the alternate had thrown some, criticism their way before this Olympics, and she doesn't see the same work ethic and whatever. So there's been a lot of BS going on online. But when I saw that, and I spoke about this years ago during the Tokyo Olympics, which had to be postponed from 2020 to 2021, to be able to say, look, I need to step back. I'm going to bring the team down. I think her aunt had just died. There was some concerns that the Japanese Olympic Committee would not let her be on any medications that she was taking. There was risk of injury. This wasn't a selfish thing. This was a very unselfish and a very, very smart thing for any athlete representing America to do. And this is why. Because she could come back despite any prior injury, despite everything she went through a few years back, to be able to come back and perform as well as she did. And she's gifted. She's just gifted. And, we oftentimes think that we always have to do 2 steps forward. And taking that 1 step back is going to wreck us. No, it's not. It's not. I can't tell you how many times taking that 1 step back, whether it's for your health, whether it's for your marriage, whether it's for your job, is advantageous. It's very advantageous. My career in radio was technically, from a medical career standpoint, a 1 step back. I had a thriving practice. It was growing. It was 2009. The recession was just starting. And I would have had to cut back, and we needed money, trust me, to pay for staff and to keep things going. So I took a monetary loss, a huge drop in income, to start a radio career. And I think that was the best move I ever made. Now, some of you guys are like, no, we got to listen to you now. For me, it was a good move, okay? Have never been happier. Same thing with a relationship. How many times have therapists suggested, you know what? Try sleeping in a separate bed. Maybe you guys are starting to resent each other because you're waking each other up at night, or one of you is snoring, or the sleep apnea is maybe that'll help the relationship. And you would think there's no way I'm not going to sleep in the same bed as my spouse. No way. I've heard from many people that helped save the marriage. Where they had sex, but then when it was time to sleep and get a good night's sleep, they slept in separate quarters. And they were able to get a good night's sleep and be a little kinder to each other the next day. Same thing with work. Let's say you feel like, well, in order to get to this path to VP, you have to do this, this, this. What if you do take a step back? What if you do pivot? Well, a lot of people have done that. They want to be in show business. They're not related to anybody. They might not have the looks. They might not, but then they decide to go into podcasting or influencing, and all of a sudden now they have fame. Sometimes that shift or that pivot is exactly what you need, and it takes guts. It is not easy. It is a risky move to bring up to a spouse, maybe we should sleep in a different bed, or maybe I should quit the Tokyo Olympics, bow out. And it takes guts. But remember, success is a journey. Having opportunities to regroup and to restart and to redirect is sometimes exactly what you need. If you just kept going down the same path. Now, we talk to students about gap years. Gap years are a kind of a mixed bag, where while you're studying and trying to get into school, many universities, pre-med, will tell students, take the year off. Just take the year off. Do some research, get some real life experience. Now, for some people, they're like, wait a second, the biochem is fresh in my mind, the pathology is fresh in my mind, I'm going to keep going. And I support them on that, especially if they get into school. But if they don't get into school, or they don't get accepted, I think it's a great idea. Get some experience under your belt. Scribe, apprentice, intern, shadow. Get a publication done. Improve your scores. Then apply again. It might feel like a one step back, but it's not, because it's propelling you forward. And so a lot of us have times in our life where we're like, well, no, I can't do that. I can't downsize. If I downsize, I'm going to not be able to keep up with the Joneses. It's going to admit defeat. No, it's not admitting defeat. How many times have you guys day traded or been working the stock market, and you decide to sell a stock so you have some extra money, and you sell the stock at a loss, but it's because you want that extra money to buy another stock? If that stock goes up, that was a win. If that stock goes down, it's a negative. And I have learned in my life that any failure I had, and I can't really think of them as failures. I don't think I had necessarily a failure. I never failed a test. But if I had something that somebody else would say, yeah, that's probably not one of your highlights in your life, I don't look at it that way, because if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am today. If I didn't get dumped by the guys I dated who dumped me, I'd never be with Corey right now. And I wouldn't have my amazing family who I have. If I didn't get rejected in the match by one of my top choices for residency, then I wouldn't have matched in one of the best residency programs ever, where I ended up matching in Las Vegas. So, congratulations, Simone Biles. I think she did right. I am so proud that she's on Team USA. God bless her and the team. And I can't wait to see what she does next. 1-877-Daliah.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.